Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just getting ready to have a chat with the wonderful Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey, which I'm very excited about. Hello, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. Chat to the wonderful Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey right now. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Not bad at all. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to have a chat. One of our many lockdown chats. How is lockdown going for you? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. It's been, long. I've been locked down since the 23rd of March. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long haul, hasn't it? Where are you locked down?
Kent.
Kent. Oh, nice. Nice and leafy though.
Yes, very leafy. Where are you?
I'm in Birmingham.
Not so
Yeah.
leafy.
It's actually quite, I'm just outside Birmingham, so it is quite nice and leafy. I'm quite lucky. But it has indeed. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, bit of a long haul.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going anywhere soon either because
Hmm.
I've got autoimmune issues. So, oops, sorry, phone. Autoimmune issues. So that means, yeah, staying here.
Staying in. Yeah, I think that's wise. It feels like everything's going back to normal, but I'm very suspicious. I feel like it shouldn't be going back to normal. So
Truth, 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 truth.
yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. I just want to introduce you whilst everyone is joining us. So we have the incredible Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey, who I'm so excited to chat to because we've never actually met, but I've always like just missed you at an event or something like that, and I've wanted to meet you for ages. The wonderful Dr. Lori Beth is a bit of a celebrity in the sex positive world, a speaker, a sex and intimacy coach, a psychologist, and her expertise lie in working with couples and groups and individuals to explore their sexuality and discover a deeper level of sexual congruence, heal from past trauma, and as well as to create more meaningful, pleasurable, exciting, and authentic intimate relationships. Dr. Lori Beth is also the host of two amazing podcasts, The A to Z of Sex and Sex Spoken Here. She's a passionate speaker on all things sex education, all things having an open dialogue about sex, and is often quoted in the media and a real expert in her field. Is there anything you'd like to add? Have I missed out anything?
There are two things. One is that Sex Spoken Here, you can get the archive, but I'm not doing that anymore. But I started a new one called Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey's Erotic Library, and it's an erotica podcast.
That is good to know. I haven't heard of that one, but I'm excited to check it out.
It's absolutely great fun. I'm doing my erotica and reading other people's erotica with permission, but I also have a lot of authors who have come on to read their stuff, which is fabulous.
Amazing. So what was the title of that again? Sorry?
Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey's Erotic Library.
Erotic
Library, yes.
Amazing. You heard it here. Check it out.
So that's a cool one.
Amazing. I'm so excited to listen to that. And so how did you get into all these, you do all these incredible things around the world of sex and pleasure and sex positivity. What led you to this kind of work?
So when I was 9, I made a bottle to live in to wait for my master. That was my first understanding of sexuality. I watched I Dream of Jeannie, and I thought the idea of having somebody who would tell me what to do was hot as hell. And I talked with my friends about this, and they thought I was very weird, so I stopped talking about it. Right. So when I was a teenager, I discovered BDSM erotica, and keeping in mind that I'm 57 years old. So that means I discovered books. And when I was 15 and I could get to an art movie house, I discovered some art movies in the theater. There was no internet. And so I tried to get what I wanted with boyfriends and with girlfriends, and really wasn't getting too far. And at 19, I ended up in a relationship that turned out to be an unmitigated disaster. And he was, supposedly into BDSM, but actually he was just an abusive human. And as a result of that, I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder. So I went into psychology with the idea of A, helping people who had PTSD heal, and B, providing sex and relationship services for people who weren't heteronormative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how
So
I got
needed.
started. And I am moving from there to, I did trauma for a while, primarily with sex and intimacy on the side. I wasn't living out and proud till about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Like
Oh,
really,
really?
really out. Yeah. I mean, I was out. Anybody who knew me knew, but
Yeah.
I wasn't speaking loudly. Because in part because I was doing a lot of family court work and I was concerned about that.
Yeah.
Second, because I have a son who turns 18 on Monday. And so, yeah, so when he was younger, I didn't want to make him the possibility of him being a target for stuff. But the last 5 years, I've just been completely out, and I get louder and louder. I published my erotic memoir this year, so people can.
It looks incredible.
Yeah, so people can find out the story of my life along with my erotica. So, I mean, I can't be out any louder than that. So,
Yeah.
and really, I mean, my goal is to take sex and conversations about sex from shadow to light. Everybody should be able to get their needs met. And if you can't talk about it, you can't get your needs met. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think what's so interesting about your journey into sex education is sort of how often I speak to other sex educators where it's become a need, like it's got to a point where there's been like a communication barrier, and the lack of knowledge around sex has been so detrimental to us or to that person that they've like we've had to delve into sex in order to sort of untangle this and work out.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was that there was so much shame around having desires that were different from other people. And it took me a long time to sort out that shame so that I no longer felt the shame. And, that was an ongoing process. I dealt with some of it, and then there were still things I had shame around. And eventually there was nothing left. And just the relief in just being able to be who I am 100% of the time, instead of being who I am in part and constantly hiding. Like I'm married to a man, so people assume I'm heterosexual. Bad assumption, right? Plus is heterosexual. And we're both. He identifies as bisexual. I don't even identify as bisexual anymore because my attractions have nothing to do with gender. My attractions are all to do with power. So I have partners of all different genders because it's irrelevant. It's like where is that energy? Wherever that energy is, that's where I am. But to actually be seen instead of having people make assumptions.
Being seen for who you are. And how long do you feel like that journey took to really feel like in your own power, in your own space, like honestly feeling like you say that now you are sort of living out who you actually are? Like if someone is at the beginning of that journey, sorry.
It depends, right? Like for me, I'm living in this relationship. It's a power exchange relationship, 24/7.
Oh, I think we've lost you. Oh no.
And did you?
Oh, we just lost you for a second there.
Okay. I've been with him for 11 years. So, but I had an earlier relationship to that as well. Keeping in mind that I came out of a trauma background, so it probably took me longer than it might take somebody else. It took many, many years, but it's about 20 years, I guess. About 20 years. But that was also resolving the trauma, and that was also, finding the places where I could do the things that would make me confident in who I was.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that journey with us, because that's so sort of inspiring, and sort of coming through that roller coaster of a sexual journey is so interesting. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So I'd love to ask you, we've had lots of questions about how sort of kinky and queer and non-monogamous people, how they can survive lockdown. and how we can keep on going through this. So if you're happy to answer some questions, I would love to. So we've had a question about how can people stay connected to their kink community during the pandemic, when it looks like these activities and these venues and these communities, they won't function in the same way for a little bit.
Okay, so you need to get creative, right? You need to get creative. You can do stuff over Zoom. Yes, I know. You're not going to be, flogging yourself isn't nearly as much fun.
Yeah.
But if you're a masochist, there are all sorts of other ways of creating pain.
Yeah.
That don't require flogging. I mean, Shush has a lovely range of clamps.
Doing
Clamps are a wonderful thing. I have a love-hate relationship with nipple clamps. Just saying. But so you can cause yourself that pain if that's the part that you're really into. And always, if you're a sadist, you can talk someone through it. There are remote control toys. There's orgasm, forced orgasm, and orgasm denial, all of which can be done at a distance. I think it's really important to create scenes, use imagination, talk, lots of talk, write to each other, read erotica to each other. There are kink munches that are running. There's at least one poly kink munch that's running on Zoom.
Oh, cool.
Right. So, I mean, there are ways of doing it. If staying connected to the community for you just means wanting to be able to talk with people, there's plenty of ways of doing it. If you're talking about being able to play, that's a little harder. But, private dungeons will be open soon if they're not already. Somebody that you trust, like the London Dungeon is, he's the most lovely bloke and terribly trustworthy. And I would certainly trust that once he says that he's feeling comfortable to reopen, that this would be taken care of well enough so that I could go as somebody who's concerned about, it in germs, but that I could go with a partner or partners and rent the space and use the space. So what's going to happen, I think, is that you won't be playing in venues with lots of strangers for some time. When you start playing with people, you're going to start playing with people that you know. And in some ways that's sad because the energy of a large group can be something a lot of fun. In another way, actually, it's a good thing because you get to a deeper level of play if you actually take the time to really get to know somebody's kinks and stuff. I know that my husband and I are going to start a sober play party once it seems safe to do so. So it'll be no drink, no drugs, period. And it'll be by invite only, and it'll be a small group. And I think that's the way that things are going to go for a little while. Just because classes, I was having Midori come over in April, and of course we had to cancel that. We will reschedule that for 2021, but we're going to watch, how things go. But like if you want to learn some stuff from Midori is teaching online. It's just going to be hands-on things are going to be much harder. And if you don't have a partner, it's going to be harder. I guess people can start seeking out partnerships where when they allow a bubble or one or two people where you can, if you have a play partner, add them to your bubble. You can meet and do some stuff. But it is definitely harder than one might imagine. It takes a lot of creativity. You got to think about it a lot.
Yeah, amazing. Get those kinky bubbles going, people. That's what we need.
Midori, I see Renee says, Midori, well, let me tell you something. Midori read her erotica on my podcast, and her episode will come out in a few weeks' time. And for people who join my Patreon, you have to join my Patreon, and you have to join at the $10 level a month if you want to hear interviews with some of the people and get sort of the extra bits and pieces I'm adding, because I'm trying to get some background support so that I can keep producing these two things, because they're expensive to produce. They have serious production costs. So if you want the extras and you really want to hear quite amusing conversations with Midori, is just one of the people who actually joined me. So you should check out the podcast.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that sounds incredible. And also another great way to feel like you're keeping your kink community and your kink side alive is
Let me
subscribing to the Patreon.
let me be really clear. Um, there's very little heteronormative stuff. There isn't really any right now
Mhm.
online. I mean, because most of the authors that I've been speaking to are kinky, and I'm terribly kinky myself. So what I write is
Mhm.
kinky, and what they write is also quite kinky. So
Amazing. We're losing your sound a little bit. Is your microphone covered at all?
no, it should be fine. Is that better?
That's much better. Amazing. Thank you. Cool. So we have some other questions for you. We have a question. So I am a cis woman and would really like my very gentle male partner to engage more in dominating me. He is very cautious about this, but I would really like him to give it a go. What would be a good place to start? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Start with spanking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have a conversation with him about that and start with spanking, because it's easier to feel comfortable that you're not going to hurt somebody when you're controlling it because it's your own hand. And
Yeah.
implements can feel a little bit more scary.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great.
That's where I would start. But you know, have a conversation. You need to really explain in detail that this is something that's fun for you, that you will quite happily tell him if it's a bit too much and he can just back off a bit. You know, he's not going to damage you.
Mm-hmm.
This is something you want. You may have to say that 3 or 4 times before it gets through,
Yeah.
or 5 or 6 or 10 or 20, you know.
Yeah.
And if he's still having trouble, try and find out what his preconceptions are. Like, you know, some guys feel they've learned that this is not an okay thing to ever do.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have trouble getting past their programming, which says don't ever hit a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sort of trying to be the nicest man, or the trying to stick with those.
Well, what about a strap on? Somebody said, what about a strap on? Except that the question was about a cis man and a cis woman. So a strap on is not where she's not going to be pegging him.
Yeah.
That would make him the submissive.
Also, I'm not sure if that's where I'd start. Anyway.
I wouldn't start there either. I would not be starting with a strap on. If you've got a man who wants to try pegging, you start with your fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, amazing. Thank you for that advice. So we have another question about, so this person has asked, it feels like an unusual amount of pressure put on myself and my partner, who I live with my partner, and we usually get our needs met by others. We're polyamorous, and we take a lot of advantage of that. So how can me and my partner deal with this in lockdown when we're not getting our needs met by anyone else?
Okay, so this is a really common one. So thanks for asking, whoever asked that. You know, you need to talk with your other partners, and you need to spend significant time with your other partners. That's the only way you're going to lower some of the pressure.
Yeah.
I'm still getting some of my sexual needs met by other partners. It's just at a distance. So again, be creative about your sexual needs. The emotional needs that I would normally get met outside of home, I'm getting them met as well. You just have to schedule it and keep up with it. It is different, and it does make people really uncomfortable if they're really not used to a relationship with their nesting partner that actually is, you know, full on. Particularly, I mean, there are some people whose relationships with their nesting partners don't have a lot of sex in them, so they're feeling quite frustrated right now. Don't give in to the pressure. Where you can, in addition, meet each other's needs, where you can work on that and beef things up, great. Have the conversation. That's nice. But don't feel pressured to step into the place of all the other relationships.
Yeah. Becoming these 6 different people.
No, you're not gonna manage that.
Yeah. So yet again, it is getting creative people, getting those kinky zooms on and those fun.
And if you're having trouble with ideas, go read erotica, watch good porn. You know, you can get ideas by doing all of those things. You know, there's loads of things that you can be doing that don't require the other person to be in front of you in touching distance.
Absolutely. Do you have any go-tos for good porn?
Well, if you're going to watch porn, Frolic Me
Mm-hmm.
is great stuff. So is Ex Confessions. That's
Mm-hmm.
ethical porn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of, you can get a bit of a story. I like that, and I also like a lot of movies that aren't quite pornography. So The Secretary is a hot movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're Swept Away in the original version is one of my favorite hot movies. So there's lots of things that you can watch. I have an ebook called, it used to be 74 movies that are not X-rated. Now it's 100 movies that are not X-rated. So apparently it's going to be 104 movies because somebody recommended, because Midori was going to send me the names of some Japanese movies that I don't have to
Amazing.
add. So it's an ebook. You can pick that up on drloribethbisbey.com. But if you're on this live, drop me an email and I'll email you a copy of it as a freebie.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. And that is, what did you say that's called? That's now 104.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I have to get the 4 from Midori first. So it's going to take me about a week, but yes, it'll be 104 movies that are not X-rated.
Amazing. That sounds incredible. So we have another question for you. So this person has asked, I'm queer and I'm in a long-term relationship with my primary partner. We usually have a don't ask, don't tell policy, but right now, because we're in lockdown, we have to be more careful about how we organize talking to each other, and it has brought up a lot of jealousy. Do you have any tips and thoughts on how we organize talking to our other partners better?
I think it's really difficult to do that. I mean, I'm being completely honest. It's really difficult to do that. It would be easier to work through the jealousy.
Yeah.
So, you know, to look at what are the reasons for the don't ask, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
What is it really bringing up? Because if you walk out the room to go outside for a walk or whatever, you do that too many times in a day, your partner still knows what you're doing. That's why I'm saying I think it's really difficult. I don't think it's possible to be completely hidden in this situation if you're close with your partner and your partner's
We lost, sorry, we've lost your sound a little bit again.
Sorry.
There we go, perfect.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you're close with your partner and your partner's observant, it's not really possible to be completely hidden in this situation. Unless you have, you know, if you're very wealthy and you have a humongous property, then probably you can do it. But if you're not, if you're an ordinary person, the chances are it's going to be difficult to hide that you're having the conversation. Therefore, you end up with people being suspicious of each other all the time and things degrade. So what I would be suggesting is actually get some coaching and sort out the reasons for the don't ask, don't tell, and then renegotiate your contract based on the coaching that you get, based on what you're able to work out between you.
And could this be something that someone could get in touch with you about? Is this
absolutely? Yeah, absolutely. I can certainly help with that. It's just don't ask, don't tell really only works when either A, people are unobservant, or B, it's something that happens once in a while, right?
Yeah.
That's like you're going away on a trip and it's don't ask, don't tell. But when it's stuff that happens regularly, people usually figure out that something's going on. And then that tips into jealousy, and that's just unhelpful. So it's much better off to have actually what I would call a clean contract where you negotiate. First, you figure out why, what the jealousy is, what you can live with, what you can't live with, and you negotiate from there.
Yeah, that's such great advice. So the person who asked this question, sort of flipping it around a little bit and not trying to mitigate the circumstances, but getting down. As always, it's that communication, isn't it? It's getting down into the reasons behind this. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And also get in touch. Get in touch with Dr. Lori Beth. Amazing. So we have another question about living in lockdown. So I live in a small flat, and my flatmate and we usually have a setup where my flatmate will leave for a night so me and my partner can have much louder, kinkier sex. But now this can't happen. but me and my partner are really missing this element of our relationship. How can we manage this situation?
Gags.
Yeah.
Gags.
Yeah.
Bite your hand, bite the pillow, use a gag. There are loads of parents out there. I'll raise my hand to this. Loads of parents out there who live in houses that aren't that big, whose children have ears, who manage to have sex quietly, even though that's not what they normally would do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you end up with a bloody lip or a bite on your arm or whatever it is, right? I think the hitting sounds are harder to mask. Turn the music up.
Yeah. Yeah. Music is key.
and if the person says, well, your music is loud, then my response to that would be, in as polite a way as possible, which would you prefer to hear, my music or my sex?
Yeah.
Up to you.
That is an excellent idea. Music or sex? Do you have a go-to kinky sex playlist?
We have a number of kinky sex playlists. My main partners all have beating lists. That's what they call them, beating lists. My husband even has a beating hat.
Oh, really? Wow.
He puts that hat on, you best get out of there. No, and he's a percussionist. So I'm his drum. And we teach human drum circle. For those people who like spiritual drumming, we teach how to do that with humans as drums. So that you can hear a lot of drum sounds.
Amazing. So is it quite percussion heavy music that you have going on at the same time then?
Prince sets are a little bit worrying. Those usually mean that we'll be, we were once at a party at a dungeon where there was a 45-minute Prince set, and he literally beat on me for 45 minutes. So there are certain types of music that a couple of pieces from Led Zeppelin that I want to run from, they're just, but everybody has their own idea. And some people don't use music and don't like music. I can't imagine stuff like that without music. My cohort is in the POC community, and there's always really good music with really good beat. That works for us.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. All about getting the right playlist, people.
Absolutely.
Right playlist. And also, Topher Taylor said a couple of weeks ago, speakers out to the door, which I also think is a very good tip.
Yep.
Yeah. Good combination. So we have our last question for this evening. So this person has asked, me and my partner are queer and both of us are dealing with quite a lot of past trauma. We have begun to explore how BDSM play can have a positive part in healing some of that trauma. Do you have any tips on where we could start, good things to start off with that are quite gentle?
This is always a hard one to ask. It depends on how far you've gone with your trauma healing.
Yeah.
BDSM can help you, but if you're early in your healing, you need to be working with a professional. Some professionals who understand BDSM are okay with it. So I'm okay with it, and I understand when people are using that, and when I know people's individual circumstances, and I can give them advice about where to start and what to avoid.
Yeah.
It isn't a go-to place, right? So it's really important that because it's completely around your individual circumstances. So when I'm doing trauma work with somebody who says that they're also wanting to do cathartic work that way, then I can give them some advice. There's also there are also some practitioners who work with BDSM as a way of an adjunct to healing. Shawnee Love is one of those practitioners who does some work there. So you can look him up. But I would not be doing it on your own. It's not long-term advice, but getting some advice and getting a program together, knowing what you need to do if somebody's really badly triggered is what I would be advising people to do. You don't want somebody to end up in the middle of a flashback in the middle of a scene. It sucks.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's all about again that where you are on your journey and getting some assistance in that very complicated journey.
Sometimes all you need is a couple of sessions to kind of be clear about what are the go-tos, how do you negotiate this, what do you have in place if things are triggered, how are you going to handle, you know, instead of somebody making a plan with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose it must be much easier said than done to, like, where, is there a database of, I'm sure I know the answer to this, but is there a database of kink positive sexology?
Well, there is. I mean, there's the NCSF's Kink Aware Professionals list, which
Oh,
is therapists
amazing.
who are kink aware. There are some of them outside of the U.S., and I'm one of them on that list. Pink therapy is a good place to go to in the UK because therapists there are therapists of all types, and it's an organization that deals with gender, sex, and relationship diversity. You'll find lots of therapists there who are kink aware and friendly. If you're looking for a sexologist, you know, you look for where they list experience with kink. But the other thing is if you're not sure, go ahead when you write to a professional, you telephone a professional, ask the questions and watch the response. Because kink aware is great. Kink aware means that somebody understands what kink is and doesn't pathologize it. But the fact is that kink aware may not be good enough. You may want somebody who's kink knowledgeable.
Yeah.
You may not want to explain yourself. So it depends, right? It's just like, you know, you don't want to educate the therapist.
Yeah.
Right? So some therapists who are kink aware know quite a lot, and others are non-pathologizing and they have a basic education, but they don't know very much. Knowledgeable usually means they know a lot. Knowledgeable often means that they are in fact kinky themselves. And so, you know, that doesn't mean that they make assumptions that you do things the way they do things. It just means you don't have to explain the basics to them. You can explain your kink and your world and your version of things.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a humongous amount of sense. And good luck to whoever asked that question. And I hope that there's some really amazing advice that just to really seek those, and I completely agree, those kink positive.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I could have just said, oh yeah, start here, but I won't, because there isn't an easy place to start. Like when somebody says we both have trauma, like that could be, you know, mild trauma. That could be, you know, the kind of trauma I lived through, which was like devastating trauma. And where you start with that, with BDSM, is a totally different place.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a huge amount of sense, because I think it's so important to be realistic about these things.
Absolutely. And the fact is that these are things that you can work on and get better, right? These are not things you have to live with for life. These are things you can work on and change. Lots of people who've been traumatized are missing certain emotional skills. They can learn those skills, right? Yeah. It isn't and forever we need to be careful around X, Y, and Z because I'm always going to be triggered. The whole point is to work through the triggers, and you can. Yeah. And people do get better, and they do go on to have whatever trauma they have be in their past, not living with them in the present. And that's what you're looking for. You want to be in new life, making new mistakes.
Yeah. New life, new mistakes. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. That was such a hopeful, wonderful ending to our Q&A this evening. Thank you so much for coming to chat with us. It's been so lovely, and I hope that I get to meet you in person very, very soon.
One of these days. It's been my pleasure. I mean, since lockdown, I've had 4 orders from Shush.
Amazing. I love that. Oh, and I should say, what'd you say?
4, and I think I'm about to do my 5th.
Amazing. Well, enjoy. And for anyone who is listening to this, if you want to buy anything from Shush, there is a virtual code. So just put in the word virtual to get 15% off this evening or whenever you want to shop. And tell us as well. So just remind us of all the podcasts, and also if there's anything else that you want to plug, you want to make sure that people know about, please feel free to tell us about whatever. Where can everyone find you?
Easiest to find me, Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey .com. And if you want my memoir, you can either look up Lori Beth Bisbey on Amazon, or if you want one autographed by me, go to drloribethbisbey.press. And then you can get it there. The A to Z of sex, there's a bit.ly for that. It's bit.ly A to Z of Sex Radio. And that's on every Thursday night live, but you can go and listen anytime you want and download. The Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey's Erotic Library, you can get on Spotify, you can get it on Apple, on Stitcher, on Dr. Lori Beth Bisbey.press website. You'll also be able to get it on the other one soon. I just haven't set it up yet. But better yet, go check it out on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Lori Beth Bisbey. And let's see. And if you got questions, Lori Beth at drloribethbisbey.com, or I'm on Instagram is at Dr. Bisbey, and Twitter is also at Dr. Bisbey. So hit me up on any of those channels and I will respond. I'm quite happy to respond.
Amazing. Hit this wonderful human being up, people. Okay, amazing. Oh, lovely message from Hazel. Lovely to see you, Hazel. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you so much for chatting with me this evening. It's been so lovely, and I hope to see you soon.
Yep, my pleasure.
Good luck, Dan. Thank you.